He was taken from his parents in Sacramento, sent to a foster home, and then he was subsequently placed with his aunt, Karen Ramirez, who eventually was arrested for assaulting the boy herself. She ended up with a felony warrant on her head and basically was on the lam for a year. Subsequently, the boy was taken from Ramirez, placed into a second group home where he then escaped back in 07. After he escaped, he basically disappeared from the radar. And basically it was the Shoemakers and Ramirez who knew where he was. No one else did. He was chained. As we know, he had a chain around his ankle. His condition in the house, he was dirty, he was bloody.
So all this time, the boy has been escaped from Child Protective Services control, their knowledge, their security. They had no idea where the boy was. Now we find out he had been kidnapped and was being held chained up in this home by a seemingly normal couple. Karen Stark, psychologist, how can that be?
See, obviously this is not a normal couple. And you see situations like that. I don't know, do you remember, Nancy, that couple who held those two girls captive?
Yes.
These are people that actually get off on abuse, and it's kind of a group thing.
So normal. I mean, the mom in the home is actually a Girl Scout volunteer.
Yeah, well, that doesn't mean anything. That's just external.
Well, you know, to everybody that was ever in the Girl Scouts, it does mean something. It's kind of hard to imagine your piano teacher or your Girl Scout leader or your first grade teacher chaining a boy up in filthy conditions, starving him, beating him, and tormenting him. Every adult in this child's life has let him down. Not just let him down, but abused him. His whole life has been nothing but child abuse. Let's unleash the lawyers as we take your calls. Susan Moss, Renee Rockwell, Daniel Horowitz. Susan Moss, child advocate, weigh in.
Well, if these other 4 children saw this boy beaten by the accused, then they too have suffered significant emotional abuse. I got to tell you something. I'm just glad that they were able to get these 4 kids away from this couple, because what they must have experienced and seen, especially the older kids, is something they'll never forget.
To Renee Rockwell and Daniel Horowitz, you ever heard of a little legal theory called conspiracy and party to a crime, one for all for one? This aunt of his was in and out of the home on a weekly basis. She knew what was going on in that home. There's no way out for any of them, Daniel Horowitz.
Well, Nancy, I see the defense coming already. The aunt put him in that home because he was a troubled child, and they were just disciplining him. Look how happy he was in the yard working, but he was just a behavior problem.
Well,
that's what they're going to say. I'm not saying that's what I'm saying, but that's what their defense will be.
That is what you're saying. You're saying that. Don't give me any ideas, Horowitz.
Well, Nancy, let's
You're a California lawyer.
I wouldn't say that unless it were true.
You'll end up on the case.
No, I wouldn't take a case like this, but I'm telling you that it's a viable defense, and the prosecution does not have a slam dunk case, even though it looks like this kid has been abused. Well, they're going to come back strongly.
It does look like a slam dunk case to me. And yes, take a look at those two.
It's not.
Michael Schumacher, age 34, and Kelly Lane Lau, 31. He installed cable. This guy could have been tromping in and out of your home while he had a boy chained up in filthy conditions, emaciated back home. Here's his wife, the Girl Scout volunteer, Kelly Lane Lau. What about it, Renee?
Well, Nancy, one thing we can rest assured is that this child is still alive to tell it all. So this prosecution is not making any deals with anybody because they don't need to. The child is here to tell it, Nancy.
To Sebastian Kuntz with Talk 910 KNEW, Green 960. Sebastian, what kind of time are they looking at if they're convicted? What are the allegations, the charges?
The allegations of the charges are as follows: kidnapping, torture, false imprisonment, child endangerment, and corporal injury to a child. They're currently being held on a $1.2 million bail in the San Joaquin County Superior Court. That's the county where Tracy's located. And they're going to be arraigned tomorrow afternoon at 1:30. So it's just around the corner when we're going to know a whole lot more about this situation here.
Back to Glenn Kell with the Manteca Bulletin. As of last night, police had determined the boy was in no condition to try to interview him. Has he been interviewed yet?
I believe he's been interviewed, Nancy. In fact, I have word that he was released from the hospital today.
Good.
And placed into foster care along with
Lord, help
the
us.
other 4 children.
He's back in foster care?
That's what I understand.
God in heaven, help us all. That's how this whole thing got started. Where are the biological parents, Glenn Kell? Anybody have an idea about that? I think they should all of them, the whole kit and caboodle, need to do a little jail time.
I agree with you. The parents who had him 3 years ago and lost him because of abuse, I don't know that they have been contacted.
Do you know the connection between Karen Ramirez, the aunt, and this couple that were torturing him?
That is the big question. What connection there is between them, and no one I have been able to talk to has the answers, and I've been bird-dogging that as much as possible, and it
Let's
just
go out to
doesn't...
the lines. Catherine in Florida. Hi, Catherine.
Hi, Nancy. How are you?
I'm good, dear. What's your question?
Well, my question is, I'd like to know, when this child escaped from the foster home, where was Child Protective Services all this time, and why didn't anybody ever see this poor child?
Excellent question. Sebastian Kuntz, what does CPS have to say about all this? It's not our fault. We didn't know, blah, blah, blah.
Presumably, I mean, you know, it is a similar situation, you could say, with where was the law when 43-year-old Karen Ramirez was fleeing that warrant for that year and a half. There are a lot of questions, but to answer the question of why wasn't the boy seen, neighbors did see the boy. He was seen occasionally mowing the lawn or taking the garbage out as recently as 2 weeks ago, according to one account, when he looked extremely pale and unhealthy.
Sounds like slave labor to me. Back to Leah Leonardo, who worked at the sports club. What is your most vivid recollection of this boy when he came into your sports club?
It really seemed, it was very unreal. A kid who was completely covered in soot from the head all the way down to the waist. You could only see his skin complexion because he had moved or wiped away his cheekbones. You could tell he was a Caucasian male with blue eyes, beaten down, scared for his life.
Phillips, Norelto